Hi everyone, I'm Tally, this is Farrell, this is Spen, and we're Bored of It. And welcome to our video, which is called Bored of It's Top 10 Heaviest Games.
So we're going to go through what our most played heaviest games are. As you'll probably know if you follow this channel, we tend to lean and prefer the heavier games. They make up a good part of our top 10, top 20. So we're going to look at two metrics in this video. The first is number of plays, and the second is complexity according to BGG, just because we needed some sort of arbitrary cutoff for complexity. Mm-hmm. So we've taken anything that's above 3.5 out of 5 on BGG's rating system in complexity. So all of our games will be there or higher, and usually higher.
Yep.
So let's go straight in with number 10.
So in at number 10, we have John Company, second edition. And this has a BGG complexity rating of 4.45. And we have 11 plays of this game.
Yeah, that might be the highest in complexity, we'll see, or it's definitely up there, I think. So, 11 plays John Company, second edition. And this was, as of last year, my favorite game of all time. Probably still is, for slight spoilers. Okay. But it's essentially a satirical take on the East India Trading Company and the kind of terrible things they did in India. And you play as kind of members of different families, and it's kind of an abstracted way to show how cutthroat things become when everything's abstracted out to kind of a map on a board, and how cutthroat things become and savage and brutal. So it's almost more like an RPG than a board game in some ways, in that, you know, you're playing these families, you're making deals, you're trading. There's a lot of table talk and negotiation because you're all in it together, yet you're all in it to win it, because only one person can win it. But in fact, the entire company can fail and everyone can lose. So I think what I really like about this is it's a game that just has so many outcomes, and it's such a sandbox of possibilities, that there's so much interaction, so much craziness, that even though this is a very long game, like we've even played the kind of long game where you play like back to back to back errors, we've got it to the table 11 times, which I mean in hours is like probably like 4 full days of our lives playing John Company.
Yeah, that's true. I think a lot of that is because we've actually introduced it to some people and they have also really enjoyed it. We have a friend that's requesting to play it all the time, even though it'll be, 9 p.m. on a Sunday. And he's like, let's get John Company out. And we're like, okay, no, maybe next weekend. But yeah, no, it is a really great game. I think the beauty of it in a way is it is complex. I'm kind of surprised it's that high, because what you do turn to turn isn't that hard, but it's the decisions that you make, can make.
You would say that because I run it like a games master.
Maybe, yeah, maybe you're just really...
Because you've never had to do the events in India, right? Or things like that.
That is true. But yeah, like you said, a lot of it is what happens off the board, let's say, because you're doing a lot of negotiating. You can be like, hey, chairman, please make me the manager of shipping. So a lot of the fun that we have with this game is down to that element, I think. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think it is easy enough to get to grips with compared to some like other games that are similar to this. And I think, like you said, you run it like a games master. Yeah. And the order of events kind of goes around the board in terms of like step by step by step. And there's a lot of different phases. Yeah. But it's still clear, what you should do on each step. But yeah, it's the decisions that you need to make and what the implications are of each of your actions, which makes it so complex. But yeah, we've had a lot of fun playing this and getting into the role-playing part of it.
Yeah, so very, very worthy number 10, and I would expect in the future this to keep climbing. Being my favorite game, I'll look for any opportunity to play it, even though it's kind of a special occasion game. But with that, let's move on to number 9, which is even more of a special occasion game.
So in at number 9, we have Oath, and that has a complexity rating of 4.12, and we have 12 total plays of this game.
Yep, and we don't have the box to show you because it's down in the basement.
Don't want to go down in the basement.
No.
There's board games everywhere that will fall on top of you.
Exactly. So this actually has kind of gone up. I'm not sure it would have made the list, but the last couple of months, half year, one of our gaming groups has ended up playing it because they wanted to experience it. So I think we've had 2 or 3 games with some friends. And essentially, Oath is a very strange game and also very complex, obviously. It's kind of like a legacy light type game where you're trying to, you're kind of all different people in a kingdom and you're like vying for different win conditions. So depending on your allegiance, basically, it gets very convoluted in terms of who can win what where.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's kind of comes to life through a lot of unique cards with a lot of unique card actions that are kind of attached to different locations or different people. So that kind of makes each area unique or each person unique. And you kind of have a core 6 actions that you're using to battle and kind of claim land and gather resources to have more than someone else because maybe that means you'll win. So where the legacy comes in is that once you play a game, the board state more or less kind of keeps lots of elements and it's based upon who wins a little bit. So areas they control will be the ones that remain and things like that. But it does hold over and you can kind of make these grand campaigns, and our Kickstarter version came with a journal that we always write in. So yeah, what do you think of both them, especially now that we've got it out after we played it a lot when we first got it.
Yeah,
and we haven't played it till now.
Yeah, it was super interesting getting it back out again after all that time because like you said, we played it so intensely when we first got it, and then going back to it, I don't know, I found this with a few games that we haven't played in a few years recently, but it just wasn't as hard to get back to as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Because when we first got it, it really did boggle my brain, basically. Again, it's one of those things where it tells you what the actions are like on your cards, but it's, again, the implications of what you do. I think here is way more convoluted than, say, what we had before with John Company.
Yeah.
It's just so abstract and like, okay, but if I do this, what does that mean? Or like, what am I trying to do to win? I think it was very difficult in the beginning to get that. But going back to it,
I agree 100%.
it was so much easier now. Maybe it's just because we've played so many more games now.
Yeah.
But we were able to teach the friends that never played it before, pretty easy. They grasped it as well.
Even won first game.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, one thing about Oath is that it's a very kingmakery sometimes, and that's what it came down to in the last round, where it was one person or the other person would win, I think based on maybe your action. And it was very much like you had the deciding factor really of who would win. So that's something to avoid if you don't like that. But I guess one of the benefits of Oath in that sense with the king making is that it's supposed to flow into the next game. So I think she kind of made you I can't remember, she was a chancellor because she won, and then you were citizen, So then you kind of made a coalition going into the next game, and then me and the other player were outcasts. So then it was kind of it was a bit funny. So you're supposed to take it through, which is, I think, nice in some ways.
It's one of those games though where right at the end you can spend a long time thinking about that final move that you need to do again, because it did come down to me just deciding who would win. One of them was going to win either way. Yeah. So you sit there for a long time thinking, okay, but if I do this, that will happen, or I could do this and that will happen. You're really trying to grasp a way that you could possibly do something for yourself, and then it's just not there. So it can be quite slow as well in that regard. And there was that famous game that we played where a player fell asleep and then ended up winning.
Yeah. And that's also the kind of game Oath can be.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. It wasn't as bad as when we first started playing it, and that's probably just experience with board games. We found it with other ones. We played kind of like a medium weight Euro, Clans of Caledonia, and we found that really easy compared to when we first playing. We thought it was just like really crunchy, meaty Euro,
it's
right?
Very interesting.
It's
interesting. To go back,
But it was really good to go back, and unfortunately, almost as soon as we finished finished our 2 games and got back into it, one of the players has moved to a different country.
This is what happens sometimes when we try and play we get a group together with a favourite game, and then people move away. That's what happens when you live abroad.
Because I think I would be much more interested than I was a few years ago in playing Oath some more, but we'll see.
Agree.
But he is also coming back actually next month, so maybe we'll play it, who knows. But yeah, So that's Oath, and we'll go to number 8.
In at number 8, we have Barrage, and that has a rating of 4.11 in complexity. And we have played this game 13 times, which I'm a bit shooketh about, to be honest.
Well, I think
Thought it would be more.
Important to note that these are since we've started the channel, and we definitely played it a fair few times more before the channel started.
Keeping records, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, because I think we had a real good time with this game with a core group of players who really enjoyed it, and we definitely got a number of games in.
Who also moved away.
Yeah, and then I think since then we've really struggled. Well, because it's a very complex game, we've not really shown it to many people, except for one, and we just haven't really got it except for us two, and it's better to play with more people. So it's one of these things. But we've still got some games in here and there with all the expansions coming out.
Yeah.
So why don't you say a little bit about Barrage?
Yeah, so this is a very heavy, dry energy themed Euro, our favourite type of games, to be honest. So it's basically about making hydroelectric power in the Alps. So you all take on kind of different companies which have some like small asymmetric powers, but you're basically fighting over limited space on the mountains and trying to build dams to capture the water, put conduits in so that you can generate electricity and basically create energy. But yeah, it is just complex because it's very, very tight basically.
Yeah, it's
the resource management is so tricky because basically once you've used up resources on something, they go into a wheel, and there are only certain ways to turn that wheel to like get those resources back so that then you can use them again to build something else. So you really have to plan very well. But at the same time, you've got the tension that someone's going to take the space that you need. People can also put dams in front of your dams so that they can kind of capture the water that you were planning to get. So it's very mean.
Yeah, and it's quite brutal because it's, as you alluded to, it's worker placement. And it's just very, very tight. I mean, there's, one of the main goals of the game is to produce energy. And there's like one space that kind of, depending on player count, that gives you +2. And then you might only have no bonus. And then you might have a negative. Yeah. And so if somebody on their first turn of the round just goes +2 space, unless you have a lot of money to kind of do that space again, you're out of it, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of very brutal in that way as well. And that +2 might be the difference between you filling a really big contract or only doing like a little piddly one. You never know, right? So it's definitely one of our all-time favorites for all the reasons you mentioned. We love the brutalness. There's kind of a nice variety of different ways you can go about it because there's also neutral dams. So you can kind of get like a quick start by building off of a neutral dam and kind of taking the water that holds, but then you can never really upgrade that dam.
Yeah.
Or you can build your own, which is more tedious and more resource heavy, and it might mean you kind of score less the first few rounds, but then later you're kind of set up for some big turns. And of course, there's the brutality of the other players kind of literally blocking you off from getting anything.
Yeah.
So a lot of fun, and this is one that's going to be in our collection forever, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
There's been a lot of expansions now, and I think once the newest kind of wave is fulfilled, we'll probably end up doing a buyer's guide. Something I'd quite like to do and cover like everything, all the expansion maps and factions. And
yeah, I really like the aesthetic as well.
Oh,
It
yeah.
just like looks
Art
cool.
Deco.
So yeah,
it's really cool.
Big fan of that.
So yeah, one of our favorite games, Barrage.
So in at number 7, we have Kanban EV, and this has a rating of 4.3, and we've played this game 13 times.
Yeah, well, I think you should take it being your favorite game.
Okay, so this is a complex Vitale Lacerda Euro. It is worker placement, and it's about manufacturing electronic vehicles
Your favorite topic.
Yeah, in the most efficient way. So you can go to a number of different spaces. So you might need to get car designs. You might need to put the cars on the test track. You need to go to the warehouse to get parts. But in typical Vitale Lacerda style, there are a lot of cascading actions and bonuses that you can take. And one of the key kind of gimmicks about this one is that you have a mean boss called Sandra, who comes and marks your work whenever she comes on an ad hoc basis, basically.
Whichever worker is the laziest gets punished.
Yeah, if you're the
least trained or whatever.
Yeah, worst at your job in the different departments, then she'll come and deduct you some points, basically. So that's the gimmick, is you're always trying to kind of get trained in the different areas, but you also need to complete the actions. You need to make sure that you go in the right order, because certain things need to happen in the right way to be efficient. And obviously the worker placement element, you're going to have people blocking your space. So it's also depending on that. So yeah, it's just an efficiency puzzle. And I love it. It's one of my favorite games of all time, actually. I think it is complex, but I think it's one of the maybe more accessible Vital Lacerda games, just because there is a bit of an order in which you should do things to create the cars.
I would disagree somewhat.
Yeah?
What do
you think?
I think it's mostly still circular, that you can do anything. I think there's one rubber stamp move that you have to do last, as I remember it, but because you can get designs, or you can get parts, or you can get there's a lot you can do not in any order. Yeah,
but what the other player does also sort of dictates that in a way as well. So I don't think it's a completely open sandbox of what to do. I think there is still a most efficient order which you should try to do it, because again, Sandra, she'll come and mark you in this department, so it drives you to do things in a certain order, I would say, rather than just being completely open and seeing what happens. I think it's easier to grasp and say on Mars or something like that, personally. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, I prefer On Mars, but it's still a very good game. It's, like I said, I'm not sure where it'd rank in my Vital Lacerdas, but definitely a very good game. I'm more indifferent to it. The number of plays we have is definitely down to your love of it, but I'll always play it, basically. I don't have anything too much against it, don't have anything too much for it. There are heavy Euros I'd rather play. But yeah, I don't have that so much to say about Kanban, really.
I love the little wooden components. The cars are super cute, putting them around the test track. Again, I feel like I keep saying this for every game, but the aesthetics in this one really please me. So they just again, looks great on the table, and the components are very nice and tactile as well, as you would expect from a game like this, I think. But yeah, there's something about this which is just clean and soothing to me.
That makes a lot of sense, I think. But I mean, there is some great elements, the Sandra element of kind of punishing the last player in certain areas is, I think that's really fun and a really great gimmick. And there's kind of an optional variant where you can play with friendly Sandra, and we just can't fathom why you'd want to do that, because it's our favourite part.
It's too nice for us. I think that if it was just like that, I don't think it would be one of my favourite games, actually. It is that part of it which makes it more unique than other kind of similar games that are like this, is Mean Sandra. So yeah, I am a big fan of this game, and if you're into this sort of thing and haven't given it a go, then I would personally fully recommend it. At number 7, we have Pax Pamir 2nd edition, and this has a rating of 3.85. And we've played this game 14 times.
So we've actually got it out twice within the last week, after probably a hiatus of 2 years or something.
Must be longer.
So it's definitely jumped up a few spaces. But it's very similar to John Company, which we talked about. The same designer, same publisher, historical setting. But in this case, it's set during the Great Game in Afghanistan. You play Afghani people trying to play the great powers off of each other to kind of carve out your own land, power. And at its core, it's a tableau builder as you kind of fill your court with cards that let you take actions. And there's also a big element of area control in the middle. So the gimmick, you could say, is that there's 3 different factions, and you can be any one of them, and you can change faction at any time, the drop of a hat. And you might do this for a number of reasons, but essentially you're trying to make your faction dominant, and then they kind of win in scoring. But then multiple people might be members of your faction, so then you're trying to have more influence than they do. Or if you're kind of all tied or no one's dominant, you could end up just scoring based on how many discs you've got out, essentially, which you do through various ways and buying cards and stuff. So there's a lot going on, a lot of interactivity. So what do you think, getting it back out?
Yeah, I was amazed how quickly the games went, actually.
It went really quickly for this type of game.
Yeah, we played it in, under an hour per game, I think. Something like that, maybe just a little bit more, but it was pretty quick. So we managed to get 2 games in, which was super nice. But again, not sure if it's just because we've played so many games now, a bit more experience, but yeah, we managed to get into it again super easy after such a long
I think this is a big one where we really struggled at the beginning when we first got it, just because there's so much going on and so many like options in the sandbox when you play. Whereas now we played it, I taught it to someone new, and we had like 2 relatively competitive games right off the bat. Like everyone knew what they were doing. Some pointers to our friend who was new to it, but it really surprised me.
Exactly, yeah. This is the famous example for me about how we always, are proponents of giving games a chance, because it was the 6th game, and I remember that very specifically, where this clicked for me. And up until then, I was like, yeah, it's okay, but I don't really get it. It's not grasping me. It just seemed flat, I guess, of just, putting cards out, you do some actions, but I don't know, something just clicked on that 6th game, and I realized how to manipulate the game a little bit more and how sneaky you could be and how you could pull a lot of moves and thinking about the options that could be and then trying to make them happen rather than just kind of going through the motions. So yeah, it was an interesting example. Kind of how, like, why we always give games more chance than maybe other people would. Yeah. Because you just need to go through and explore it, especially with this one. It has like a huge deck of cards, all based on historical figures. Yeah. And you just need to get through them a little bit so that you understand the options available. So yeah, and I really enjoyed getting it back out again, and I'm really keen to keep getting it back out and not leave it such a long time now. Always also a big fan of the aesthetic. It's really beautiful. The pieces are so nice. It just looks great on the table. The map is clothed as well, so it just adds that more authentic style. So I think it was always a bit of a showstopper out on the table as well. Yeah, big fan.
Yeah, I mean, it was really great to get it out. It's one of my all-time favorite games, and it had been a while. And yeah, I just had 2 great games of it. And I think this, like you said, this is why I'm a proponent of always giving games a chance. I mean, sometimes you can tell that they're just not good games, but I think there are certain games where, particularly Cold Whirly games, where you need to know if you're buying that game, that you've got to play it X amount of times. Yeah. You've got to give it 5 plays to make sure everyone's familiar with it, you understand it, you're not tripping over simple rules that change the game. So I think that's very important. It's a great example of kind of what you can get out if you put the time in. So that is Pax Pamir, 2nd edition.
So in at number 5, we have Eclipse, Second Dawn for the Galaxy. That has a rating of 3.65, and we've played this game 15 times.
Yeah, so again, boxes down in the basement at the moment, very big and heavy, more of an occasion game. But this is one of my favorites and maybe my favorite space game. Yeah. Although actually, I think that's a lie, it's probably Voidfall, but very close. So this is kind of a massive box Euro, where you are kind of doing very generic 4X space stuff. But there's a lot of really cool parts in this game, mainly through the fact that you build out your civilization through kind of techs, which are randomly drawn out of bags, so kind of variable each game, what's available. And a lot of these are going to let you kind of manipulate your ships. So your ships are very kind of buildable in almost a Lego style way, to be honest. You can take things off and put things on. So you can kind of build your ships to be really bulky and defensive, or to be really nimble and have huge cannons, basically, and everything in between. So there's quite a lot of fun in how you can make yourself within the game asymmetric, but you also play as kind of an alien faction who have their own asymmetry on top of that. So it's not like crazy asymmetry, but it's enough to make it interesting each time you play. And I just really like the kind of, the system is kind of a very tight in some ways, like action economy system, because you have to pay for the number of actions you take, which is dependent on how much money you produce. So there's always like this scramble and trying to find ways to do a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. Very tight, as you would expect a kind of like Euro-esque game to be. You're always scrambling for one more resource.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I also really like this game. So I'm not usually so much of a fan of games where it's heavy combat or like combat focused, let's say. Because it annoys me where games you like spend the whole game building up your army just to have someone come and like destroy it. And then you have to like work very hard to build it up again. I think with Eclipse, it is hard to build it up because you have limited actions, because you always have to kind of pay. But I feel like everyone's kind of in the same situation. And because it's, more like Euro element, it satisfies that part that you still want to like optimize, I think, rather than just being outright kind of territory control and like battling. And I think because, like you say, you can control what your ships are like and how much defense they have, like upgrade the guns and all of this. It is a lot in your control as to how the combat's going to go. And also you have, is it in all of the games?
I think, it's in all of the games,
non-player enemies. So I also personally quite like that you can have a conflict with a non-player enemy to gain points or explore or do whatever and gain territory, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like with someone across the table. In a way, so I
think that's really good.
Control that a little bit more
at a lower player count as well. That you both start with them on the board and you kind of randomly find them, and I think that's a nice speed block to make it from just being all out, everyone's attacking each other all the time, and it makes it more focused on your economy, which I think helps the game. Yeah,
exactly. And the different factions kind of have a little different gimmick, right? Like there's I can't remember what it's called, but there's one where you should build outwards and become your own little plant. Are they plants?
Yeah, I think so.
And like be away from everyone else. So, or some would be a little bit more confrontational. So it's also quite fun to kind of play the different factions, because it can be a quite different game, let's say, depending on what faction you have. But also a big fan, and it's quite nice that you can play that at lower player counts as well. We've played it. That's
a big part of why it's got so many plays.
Yeah, it's still super fun to do that. So it doesn't feel so much like you lose like too much with lower player counts. So
I think this has so many plays on the strength of the fact that you can play it 2 players, and also just it's one of my favorites. I just like everything it does and how it comes together. A lot of fun. Eclipse, Second Dawn for the Galaxy.
And number 4, we have ISS Vanguard. That has a rating of 3.66, and we have played 19 games of this.
Yeah, so this is a bit of a weird one in that we actually don't have the game anymore. So ISS Vanguard is a campaign game from Awaken Realms, and we were provided it as a review copy. And in this sense, it's a campaign game, which is why we kind of have so many plays. We played it a lot to do the campaign. And I think in the end, I ended up playing it a lot solo. And that's because we kind of said this because we reviewed it. In that review, there was a lot to like about the story. I think the story was very well done, but the core of the gameplay was basically rolling a set of dice and kind of like symbol matching. And there wasn't any evolution of that throughout the campaign. And it also had like a kind of weird, which I think is a very Awaken Realms thing, of being quite difficult. like it was almost like Nemesis level difficulty. So it was quite easy to lose and get beaten. And especially when you're kind of at the mercy of rolling random dice and trying to get specific symbols, it came across as like too harsh for the story it was putting across, if that makes sense. So I think we got a bit disillusioned with it. And we ended up giving it to a friend, basically. So we haven't played it in years. Yeah. And yeah, we got disillusioned just because it never evolved itself.
All I can think about is the music that we would play.
Oh, yeah.
I can still imagine it now. It's like, it haunts my dreams.
Yeah, because there's an app that you can use and it has like voice acting and stuff. Yeah. And it had background tune.
Yeah, it's quite good, but yeah, I can just imagine it now. Yeah, I think this type of game is just not my favorite type of game. Kind of narrative, cooperative, like story-driven games. But that said, we did have, some fun with it. I think like you said, the story was quite well done. I thought the app was really cool, actually. But yeah, I think it just got a bit
repetitive,
tiresome. Maybe it's a bit harsh.
No, I think that's true, though. I think it almost, you just can't do the same thing every mission. Like the core of what you're doing was just rolling a bunch of dice and hoping it matched.
I think particularly for me, between the actual game you do like the upkeep phase.
That was my favorite part.
Yeah, okay. So I did absolutely nothing. So I'd just be like sat on my phone, and it was like that part was like quite boring to me.
Yeah.
So then I think
you
would do all of that upkeep, and it could take like 20 minutes or whatever, and I'd just be sat there, and you'd be like, okay, right, we're going again, and I'd be like, just like hours and hours. Didn't we play once for like 8 hours or something
very
insane?
Much.
Yeah, and then I think for me, we overplayed it sometimes in terms of like session lengths. Yeah. Especially because, you were driving all of the upkeep part, and I had nothing to do, so I was just like, I don't know, it just got a bit boring for me.
Yeah,
but it is good, and like the production was, I thought, like very, very good. Like
so I think there's a lot to like about it, but in the end, it just it wasn't something I wanted to play for as long as it went on because of the gameplay, essentially, and nothing else.
Yeah.
So ISS Vanguard.
In at number 3, we have the Brass series, so Brass Birmingham and Brass Lancashire put together.
Yeah.
The average complexity rating across the two is 3.85, and we have played these games 21 times.
Yeah. So one of our channel's all-time favorites, one of the first couple of top 10 heavier games on top 10 BGG that we played. And we instantly took to it. And I honestly think that out of all the games in this list, Brass is a bit of a misnomer for me because I find the rule set really intuitive. Mm-hmm. And I almost don't see the complexity there. I would personally rate it a lot lower. I think it's one of those games that we're able to go back to without getting the rules out, even if it's been a year, 3 years. It's, I think, just very intuitive to me.
Yeah.
But in terms of what Brass is, it's kind of a business management game. Some ways. Yeah, where you're an industrialist in the 19th century and you're maybe even 18th.
I think it's 18th because it's 17.
Yeah,
18th.
17th, 18th. No, 18th, 19th. And you are, so you're building factories, you're producing goods, you're shipping them around.
Boxes.
Cotton, all these things. And you're basically filling out a map with little tiles. And they kind of either produce kind of components or you can flip them to make money and get victory points. And at the end of the game, whoever has the most victory points wins. But you have to connect everything together to transport stuff and sell stuff. And you can kind of interact with other players in that way because they can block you off, or they could even, in Brass Birmingham, use your resources.
Yeah.
So a lot of fun.
Yeah, and the little trick there is that you have a hand of cards, basically, which either relate to cities in the area, which means that you can go ahead and just build anything you like if you have the city card, but some cards are more to do with the industry, and then if you use those cards, you have to like have an existing connection. So there's also a bit of like added planning, let's say, about how to do the best with the cards that you pull up. But no, yeah, I totally agree. This is a game, I think the game where the most, don't know how to describe it, but go back to it and I just instantly remember it. I think the rules are just so ingrained in my mind now. Maybe that's because we have 21 plays by now. But yeah, I just absolutely love this game. I don't think I would ever turn down a game of Brass Birmingham.
No, it's an all-time channel core recommendation gameplay. It's just so clean and so smooth and so polished. It's just an absolute delight to play.
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of limited goods that you can like go after, let's say, so manufacturing or cotton or whatever. But I think there are so many different ways that you can go about it. In one game, you can really focus on trying to do like the cotton mills. In another game, you could try and go after those high value pottery factories and sell that. The links also, like in the first, it's split into two eras. So you have a canal era, and then kind of all of your links are wiped off the board, and you have a railway era. You could also try and just go after like a lot of links. So there's really a lot of different options, and obviously it's very dependent on the cards that you get into your hand as to where you can build. But the satisfaction is getting the most out of those cards and being able to try and like go after different things, let's say.
I think a great strength is the two halves where you can have a poor first half, but you generally do get a lot more points in the second half. So sometimes it's kind of almost better to do worse because kind of the first level of buildings are all wiped off the map. So if you don't do that well necessarily, you could end with a clean slate in the second half. Whereas if you've done better, you might be tied to certain places and it makes it more difficult, you know, when you start basically. So there's some interesting elements like that, but I just think, it's like I said, so smooth, so fun to play. Just something very fulfilling about playing it, essentially.
Yeah, maybe I just want to say quickly about like Brass Lancashire as well. So this is, for me, it is a little bit harder, right? Does it have is that the more complex one?
It's a weird one because I can't remember now. I think technically it has less going on in some ways.
Yeah, but I think that's what makes it a bit more tight. So they have shipping yards in Brass Lancashire, but it's very, very limited where you can do that. They're very high value, but there's maybe like 3 spaces, something like this. I'm like weirdly good at Lancashire. Yeah,
you win the majority of times. There's something about it that really suits you.
But I think it is a bit more stressful and a bit more tight because there's less going on basically, but then that makes it more tight where you have a lot more options in Brass Birmingham, I think.
Yeah.
Both really good games. I think we talked about this in our buyer's guide and some of the comments with the viewers, but I think everyone has a different preference and it's usually down to like what you played first.
100%. I've seen 99% of the time, whatever you played first is the one you prefer.
Yeah, and that's definitely the case for us. We came to Birmingham first.
Yeah.
I really like Lancashire, like good, but just this like has my heart, let's say, because it, I guess, introduced us to the game. Yeah. In at number 2, we have the Great Western Trail series. So this is all 3 games. This has combined complexity rating of 3.85, and we have played all of the games together 25 times, which, again, I'm a bit surprised. I feel like that's more as well. I feel like when it starts getting into these numbers, that is a lot of time, but we have played it a lot.
Yeah, again, there's definitely a couple of plays, at least, that were pre-channel for the original game you see here. So, and in order, the most we've played is the first game, and then Argentina, and then New Zealand.
Yeah.
And I think we've said before in our buyer's guide, our favorite is Argentina.
Yeah.
And then is quite close with the others. And when we say favorite, I mean, it's a very loose term because we love them all so much. We literally did just play Argentina at the weekend, which has boosted that up. By a play. So this is a series where you're essentially managing cows or sheep and you're kind of delivering them to a train or a marketplace or a ship or something.
They're going on holiday.
To go on holiday. And you kind of go around this loop on the board. So you kind of go like bottom to top, and then you will kind of loop back around and go again and again. Every time you go around, you're kind of pushing the game further or closer to the end. And it comes down to hand management, because you have a deck full of cows or sheep and they have different values, and you kind of want unique values and high values when you get to the end to kind of trade them in for money. But on the way, there's all kinds of action spaces that lets you get money or upgrade your player board or what you can do or get different cows or, and I think for us, it's the pinnacle of games that are enjoyable to play every single moment, especially, or not especially, but even when you're not winning, but especially in the context of this game, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's a game that some games you play and you feel really, I don't know, exhausted and annoyed at the end that you haven't won. Whereas this is just like, I wish I'd won, but I enjoyed every turn.
I should be the one to talk about this point, because you win the majority of games. This is like a feeling that I have to endure 96% of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, exactly. It's just so enjoyable to play. There's something about going around in the loop. You're almost kind of playing against yourself. I think that's what makes it so enjoyable, because you do keep going around in the loop and you always want to optimize your hand and what you're building and doing the objectives, that by the time you go around back in the loop, you want to beat what you did the last round. So I think that's what makes it enjoyable to me in a way is, you're not in, like moment to moment, you're not in so much like competition with anyone. It's just at the end when you count the points, of course you can see, but just that satisfaction of always going around and improving what you're doing. I think it's also great because you can go a lot of different ways with these games as well. I mean, one of the core parts is the kind of deck management and hand management of your cows, because like you say, you want to get unique cows and unique values by the time you end the loop. But you could actually have a game where you don't like lean so much into the cow part, because you could just go after buildings or doing a lot of objectives. There's a lot of different ways to score points.
Yeah.
So I think that makes it very enjoyable kind of game to game as well. You can kind of, in the beginning, think, you know what, this game I am going to try and go after cows. It might not happen because of what comes out in the market, or kind of other people could take the cows, but you can kind of set a little bit of a strategy from the beginning and then try and execute it basically. But big fan of all of these games. Didn't I rate Argentina as my number one game of all time?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah.
So I think, there's a great decision space in that when you move around the board, you don't have to stop at every space, although you are limited somewhat in how much you can move. But you kind of are deciding, do I want to go to this space? Because there's kind of something to get at every space, but time is also limited, because people getting to the end make the game kind of get close to the end. So then you don't want to be the one who's only been round once when everyone's been round twice.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of spicy decisions in where to stop. And then you have these different routes, such as kind of moving your train along the track, or increasing your deck, or building buildings. These are all ways to get big points. And you kind of can lean into them all a little bit, or you can lean into one really hard and neglect the others. And I think there's a lot of interesting decisions there, moment to moment as well, because you do want to do everything, but money's always tight, so you're very limited.
Yeah, and stopping at the spaces on some of them, it allows you to basically like cycle through your hand so that you can try and get that unique spread, let's say, by the end. So sometimes you're like, okay, don't necessarily want to stop there, but I also want to try and get rid of this card out of my hand because I have a duplicate, on the hope that I'll pull something else. But then you could also get a bit of money from doing that, and just, deciding whether you want to stop or not at each space is also like an interesting decision, like at every turn, basically. Yeah. And then it can be quite snappy as well, the turns, for the most part. So the game usually go on a couple of hours to a few hours long, if you've got more people. Yeah,
it's definitely like a 3-hour game with 4 players.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel ever like a slog, because the turns can really be like, okay, move my person, put a card down, get some money, done, and then move along. So it also keeps it like nice and snappy as well.
Exactly. I think last thing to say on the complexity is I think this one is a bit like Brass Birmingham, where It's definitely heavy, but there's something about it that I feel like it's only heavy because there is so much going on.
Yeah.
And it's overwhelming rather than it's complicated, because the turns are very quick and very simple. And it's not, like say John Company, where the turns are also very simple there. The implications are staggering.
Yeah.
Here, the implications are a little bit less. I think it's just that there is so much that you could think about. But one thing I really like is this looping structure, because it means that once you've gone round in one loop as like a new player, you have seen everything pretty much in the game. Mm-hmm. You've seen all the spaces, you've seen all the actions, and things will come up, but you're kind of ready to go almost properly.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that is really great about this game.
Yeah. Side note, really want to play Maracaibo as well.
I'd also love to play Maracaibo, which is very similar in terms of the moving around in a circle.
Looping.
So that was Great Western Trail.
Okay, so in at number 1, we have Root. This has a complexity rating of 3.81, and we have played this game 42 times. So quite a jump from number 2.
Yeah, and I mean, so Root famously is the kind of woodland game of war. So you have some cute meeples and critters who are having a very brutal war in the woodlands. And I mean, I think core of the reason of so many plays, besides it being one of our favorite games, is the fact that each faction is completely asymmetric.
Yeah.
So they're more or less playing their own little game in a shared space. So there is a lot of uniqueness in terms of different plays with different factions. And you often do need to play as all the factions to understand how to stop those factions, because a big part of the game isn't just pursuing your own goals, it's knowing how to stop other people and how to block them off 100%. From getting points in the way they get points.
Yeah, exactly. So you really got to play to understand. Like for me, I need to play as the faction myself to then understand in the future, if I'm playing against them, how to stop it. Otherwise, it's just a bit, distant from you. But we love this game. We like to play it with 2 players. We have like some the Clockwork expansion to kind of fill the board out a little bit, but we also found some people to play with, which is super nice, because I think we were struggling to find a group for this for a long time. We tried to introduce it to people when we first got it. Didn't really click with any of our friends, but we have found some other people to play now. So we've played a fair few games in the last year or so, I would say.
Yeah.
But not really much else to say apart from great game. I think it's really fun to play as all the different factions as well. And there is so much content that we have for this. So I think there are some factions that I still haven't played, despite us playing
I think there are factions
42 times.
I've only played once or something.
Yeah, exactly. So there's still more to explore even after all of those plays, which I think is pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, there's new factions coming as well.
I think with this game, it can be a little bit, say stressful, that's a little bit the wrong word, but I think this is a little bit similar to GWT for me. I always have fun playing it, even if it can be a little bit frustrating what other players are doing, because you can't really plan your turns, because by the time it gets back around to your turn, I mean, the board state could be completely different, and obviously it is a war game, so people can just, deliberately target you and all of this. But I don't know, it's just fun. It's just not that deep, right? It's just, you can be very, very behind. You're like, okay, well, it was a good game. It was fun,
I think
that's how I feel.
Because the factions are different, there is an element of fun of exploring them and trying to get the most out of them. I think one thing that I've noticed that's really great is we've definitely sat there and we've played games and we've finished the game, and basically the winner was decided by not quite turn order, but it's that if you didn't win on your turn, I was winning on my turn, and it's that close. And I think we've had that a few times, and we've sat there and gone, what a great game, that was a great game. And to get that with 2 entirely different asymmetric factions is quite, I think, a great thing. And that's part of the fun for us that we sit there afterwards and we go, this is brilliant. And that's why we've played it so many times.
100%. And again, to keep harping on, I'm very like one-dimensional today, but production is excellent. No, but come on, the meeples.
We should have just filmed this once, and then I could have just edited it in.
Yeah, just have a clip of me going, great production.
Great production.
Yeah. But it is though, it's amazing to have on the board, like all the pieces, the colours, like the art on the cards, just all of it is fantastic. Can't wait for Frog expansion.
Frog expansion all the way. So that was our top 10 heaviest games. We hope you enjoyed getting to see the heavy games we play and what we're playing and why we play them, why we like them. I think we're also going to be coming and doing a video on the least complex games we've played. So we'll do the inverse of this. But we really appreciate you watching. Please comment, like, subscribe as you wish. It would really help us. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.